left at 15 and I went to the pit for a job, and I got an interview with the training officer. I went in with a friend of mine. He says, "What do you want, lad?" I said, "I want a job." He said, "Who's your father?" I said, "Charlie Pearson. Be in this office 7:30 Monday morning." I said, "I'm not 15 till next Thursday." He said, "I'll be in there next Monday morning then." He said to my mate, he said, "What's your name?" He said, "Barry Aldworth." He said, "Who's your father?" He said, "Ken Aldworth." He said, "Come with him." So that was all you had to do to get a job in them days. No interviews, no nothing. That was it. If your dad were alright, you were alright. The job basically was foreman blacksmith. I'd got the plating shop as well, and the shafts and ropes. And that was my main job, looking after the winding ropes, the cages, all the ropes in the shaft, all the pipe work and stuff in the shaft. It had to be examined every 24 hours by law, and when I got to be foreman I had to do an over inspection, so I used to have to run up and down the head gears every day to examine everything, do an over inspection. 215 feet high to the top. Yeah, basically my main job, I suppose, was the shafts and ropes, because it was a bad setup for the ropes. I used to wear them out ever so quick. So I used to have to run the rope through my hands every day. So that was at 3,000 feet at both shafts. And then we had to watch the balance rope, which is on underneath the cages. But then we put double ropes on. So I had to have a new winding drum and new headstocks, top of headstocks and all that. So I had 6,000 feet running through my hands on that one. But it was safe. People used to say what if the wire out. The wire didn't come out because they were what we call locked coil, and they didn't come out, they just pulled apart. So the little gap, you could feel it. But they used to go wavy. And it's if you imagine a bit of string and twist it, it'll start to go into a coil, a spiral, and that used to happen with ropes, and that's when they were end of the life. They had to be changed, and we had to change them every year, 18 months. They should go 2 years, but they didn't go 2 years until I decided to oil the ropes. And that made them go 2 years. First time ever. And what happened, when you put a new rope on, we had no trouble with it while they were greasy. And we were cleaning the grease off the ropes daily for a month. And as soon as we got it dry, they used to swing them out in shaft. And I thought about it, and I thought, well, why do we clean the oil off if it runs better with oil on than without it? So I put some light oil on, and that became the job of all these friction winders, and just leave the ends of the ropes where they're coming in to put the brakes on, leave them dry. So we just oil them through. And first time ever since 1952, this was 1988 when I left, the ropes did the full 2 years. And that was the first time, so I've got that feather in my cap. I'm proud of that. The engineer said to me, as I was saying cheerio, he says, you're the only one that's made a rope with 2 years. So if you're 3 miles away from the pit bottom and you need something, you're not going to spend 3 hours walking to the pit bottom, getting up, ringing up the pit top to send something down to you, and then walking back. You're going to make do with what you've got. So you've got to be pretty inventive to work away from the pit bottom, because you can't need to be in queue and buy something. You've got to manage what you've got on the job. So that's how they were, and that's how the old pit men were. They made do with what they got. And now Gaffer said, I want you to make some of these and put them on our cages. This is the number 1 shaft. I says, it's not good enough, it won't work. He said, well, I'm telling you, I want to make him. I said, I'll tell you what, Doug. I said, I'll make one that'll work. He said, well, set somebody on making that one. I said, right, we'll make that one, I'll make one that'll work. So I invented one, a bar, drop-down bar, all special catches and levers, heavy duty, that would stop anything coming on. I made these absolutely fantastic. I got a front page of Coal News, at the side of one of these on spare cage, showing out, and that was the doctor right through Coalboard. I got £50 award for it. Yeah. And the rep came to me and he said, Linden, why didn't you tell me about that idea? I said, why? He said, I could have got you a new car for that. It was a rough job. We did everything that was big and heavy. If they got something, some plant wanted to move in or something like that, they sent for us. And we used to do it. But, and we had to be there 24/7. At the mine, you've got to have a mechanic of the mine, which is a fitter, and he's got to be fully qualified, and you've got to have a shaftsman 24/7. So it had got to be covered all the time, you know. So I've got quite a big team to start with, but as things went on, as they left or whatever, they weren't replaced. So I finished up with a small team and more work to do. As regulations, we did something different every day. We hated repetition stuff. If you had a load of something to make, you do the same thing all day. You just hate that. But when you might have 3-4 jobs in a day to make, and when I went into it was welding was frowned on. It was riveting when I first started. So it was interesting work. Yeah, and it's everything was done on the anvil. But now it's stick it and weld it. They're not blacksmiths anymore, I'm afraid. They've all gone. But when it froze, when we got extreme winter, which we don't get now, it used to shrink these plates and let the water in. And that used to freeze. So I've seen it with about, 600-700 feet of 12-inch thick ice all the way around the shaft. And of course then the cages couldn't go through. So I had to cut the road through. So it was the gang I was on top of the cages with big picks, long handled picks, to chop down the corners so the cages could go through. That was hard work, because it was freezing. I've been in one I thought my lamp had gone out, and it was actually frozen up with ice. And then it got warm. Obviously there's a bulb in there, but it had froze up, and it all froze, and the cables froze to my collar on my jacket, whatever. But it was very, very cold, very difficult work. And of course, used a lot of energy. It was real graft. But that I wanted it. We got caught. We went in to examine the shafts on Christmas Day, and found out it was too much ice. So I had to stay till about 10 at night chopping the ice off the wall, Christmas Day. Yeah, not much fun. And we once went out to move this kicker. We started to move it when tip was getting a bit high there. And we went out, and for once, all the time we did it, we got in the bucket and rode out to it rather than go out hanging onto one rope, walking on other. There's no safety harness anything. And we shouted stop with no radios, and they had to relay it from us right back a mile to the shed, and it weren't going to stop. And we still kept going. We're screaming stop, and we've got about a 50-60 foot drop under us, and it stopped just as it got to the kicker. And we found out the bloke who was on the engine had come up to the top of the bank to watch us, and when they shouted, we got run down the bank and stopped the engine. And we just got there. So we never ever did that again. We had to walk on the towing rope and hang on to the top rope and do it that way. They should have closed the pits donkeys years ago. Should never have opened them. I mean, when you look at the history of the pits, it was all misery. The people dying of pneumoconiosis, whatever, they didn't know any better in them days. They'd gulping dust down them. I've been on the coal face. I was on the ground for a couple of years. I've been on the coal face when I couldn't see my hand with my lamp for dust. And you didn't have anything to stop it. You didn't have dust masks in them days. And that's how it went. And then men were breeding that all their lives. I mean, my dad, he died when he was in his 70s. He had a heart problem, and he went operated on his heart, but they couldn't start his lungs up again because they're full of dust. Because he worked underground for 50 years. So that was pit work. They used to start as a collier. When he got to 18, he could go on the face as a collier, pick and shovel, and finish up in the pit yard on the bottom money of the pit, in all the weathers, stacking timber and stuff, because your health had gone. So it's the only industry you start at the top, finish at the bottom. They didn't get any compensation for any of this. There was, they never admitted, Coal Board never admitted it, doctors would never put pneumoconiosis on anybody's sick note. It was all brushed away. It was, you got a bad chest, it's smoking, or you've got, what do you call it? Bronchitis. That was a favourite one. Never pneumoconiosis. All miners, I'd say, would have it to a more or lesser degree. Well, you'd see people they used to come out the pit because they couldn't work on face anymore, and they couldn't do jobs outline on the roads and that. So they sent them out the pit, and they got a miserable job in winter. They had to go out there and stack timber and load girders up and whatever. I mean, they used to have the heavy gang in the pit yard. The heavy gang were a load of old men on sticks. They were very ancient, must have been anything like 50, because when you're 20, 50 is old, isn't it? And they used to lift girders on and put them on by hand on the trolleys to go underground. And there used to be, I think, about 6 on the bed, and have a special arrangement, tie them down. But they all used to get them in a row. This thing's about 12 foot long, and pick them up and put them on by hand. That was the heavy gang, and there wasn't a good limb between them. They'd all got something missing, or they got something wrong, you know. They might have had broken legs or broken arms or broken back, but the Coal Board would always find them work. They were good that way. They didn't just chuck them out scrappy. They'd always find them something to do. I mean, the severe ones, they'd get them jobs done with the sweeping up somewhere, something like that. But they'd always look after them that way. They wouldn't sack you because you were unhealthy. There was something wrong with you. You've got to give them that. But they wasn't forthcoming with much compensation either. That's a modern thing. It's the old ways. It didn't happen.
Do you remember any accidents at Clipstone?
Yeah, a lot. Yeah, I carried a friend of mine out dead. He'd working in the shaft, and he'd come up some ladders, and he dropped dead at the top of ladders, and we had to carry him out. I saw a man get an horrendous accident. They were moving some tubs on the main level, and they got a diesel engine. And he went in front of the diesel creeping forward, and he got his toe in the point of the crossing. It was on a crossing. He got his toe on the point, and the diesel came, and they just mangled his foot. Terrible. Just caught his toe under, and it stuck. He couldn't get it out. Diesel got it out. Yeah. So what was stick for the rest of his life.
And what happened? How did you react when something like that happened?
Well, you got to carry him out. Yeah.
Did you call the nurse or?
Yeah, well, that's the deputies. They phone ahead and they get the cage ready for him to go up the shaft, and half of us lying around the stretcher. Because it's stretcher in that pit is not like stretcher in here, because you're on very rough ground. So it wants at least 6 of you around it, to avoid somebody falling down and dropping patient. Because it was like, well, have you ever been upon tips? Well, you wanted them when it was rough. A bit like going over a mountainside, and all rocks stood up and holes and sloping off to one side and all that sort of thing. So you wanted half a dozen big lads on it, and sometimes 6 of you couldn't get through, it weren't wide enough. So just 4 of us had to go, sometimes 1 at each end, if it was particularly narrow. And also you've got the height difference sometimes, not all the time, but most of the time if you're stretching. But it wasn't a pleasant experience. But you would, at some pits you might do 2 or 3 mile underground. 2 men couldn't carry that. And at Clipstone, there was a face went under here. Well, if you think if they had accident, you got to walk up to where headgear is, and they never direct. You got to go that way and then that way, and, so it'd be a long way. And as I say, for stability, you really needed at least four of you on each handle to keep it stable. There were 1 or 2 funny incidents on that. We had one. They carried him out. They carried him about 2 mile, and he got on the pit top, and they coming through the doors. They could see from the road. And they said, "Wait a minute." They stopped. They jumped off, went and got a cigarette. He did. Didn't get it. Put fag on and got back on stretcher. Yeah. Oh. You got a lot of camaraderie. Everybody knew everybody. Nobody'd pass you if you're struggling. They'd help you. If you had a tub off road, if men come through a shift change or something like that, they'd all get hold of them and put them on the road for you. They wouldn't leave you. Last off, they'd leave you. Years ago, when I was down the pit, nobody'd leave you struggling like that. Because normally, all these jobs are done with young lads, 16, 17, 18 years old. The children there, they were men them days, they've got to be. They're in a man's world and they did a man's job. But nobody ever left you struggling. They'd all help you. And that was one of the things for that. I learned to sign for the deaf because we had a deaf lad work with us. And he was a nice lad. I started off as his mate. I was chargeman at the time. And then I got before me. And I put him in charge of the plate shop, and they all said he'd be no good at it, and he was brilliant. He'd been held back, I think, because when he got it himself, he never stopped work. He'd get everything he wanted. He'd load it all up. They made chutes and upper sections and that sort of thing. And he'd come to me and said, "It's ready, and this is what I want," write it down, painted it all up, marked it, sent it in, but never had to look at it again. I'd give him order and forget about it. Did everything. Yeah, absolutely brilliant. I could understand him a lot at the time, but very often I couldn't. And he didn't bear malice or anything. It didn't upset him because he was used to it. He'd had it all his life. And I'd say, "No, write it down." And that was it. You just get pad out over to chalk and write it down. The old foreman, when I was on the clock, he used to send him underground, and I wouldn't let him go underground. I said, if anybody wants Cliff to make anything, they've got to take him down to the job and bring him back. He's not going down on his own. And I think he appreciated it, and I think management did. I don't think they thought about it much. If tubs come down and you can't hear them coming and you can't get out of the way or something like that, or the roof fall. I went to work one day, and the wheels weren't going round on the head socks. And he came to my car and said, "Linden," he says, "everybody's gone back. There's nobody at the pit. Waste time going in." So I thought, well, wheels aren't going, I can't hear it scream. Yeah, okay. So I came home. When I came home, I looked up the garden and I could see wheels going round. I thought, what's going on here? So I went back, and the pit was working and nobody had turned back. So I went in, explained to Gaffer why I had turned up late, which was okay. I didn't have to clock in anyway, And so after the strike, he got made up to be a foreman underground, or a chargeman, not a foreman, a chargeman. Whenever he sent an order in, I took it straight on fire. For the rest of the time he was at pit, he never got anything made, because we used to just bin it, everything he sent. Because he just told in his lies, and it was important, when you decided you were going to work, we forced our way through 800 pickets, and to be turned around like that and sent back, I thought, no, he's done me once, he won't do me again. And I used to get memos from one of the engineers, senior engineers, why aren't job being done? I said, because I threw a job fire. And that was it. I said, anything he comes in for, he doesn't get it. And I threatened all my men. I said, get yourself ready if you're doing it, because you've got me to deal with. I'm not having it. He's getting nothing after it. Broadsworth, Maine. And he was a winder, and they asked him to go in an hour before the pit started to send the deputies down to do the safety inspections before the men could go underground. So I think it was a couple of hours, something like that.
After the strike.
Before it started, before it ended. So he went in and did the winding, and the union blacked him. They said, you're blackleg, you've worked when everybody's out. I said, well, I've only worked because I'd got to work, somebody got to start pit up. Somebody got me first.
In terms of safety?
Yeah. So it don't matter, and there's black paint all over his house, his kids were bullied at school, his wife couldn't go out shopping, he faced his load of them every time I went to work, so he came over here, and he got the job winding here. A nice fellow as well. But he said I'll have to sell the house, and that's it, like, cut my losses. Can't sell the house because that's always blocked for all time. If anybody goes in that, they're black. So he'd got mortgage to keep paying, couldn't get out of that, and buying a house over here. So I had it really rough, that bloke did. And he was such a nice fella. But all he'd done was, as he saw, it was the right thing to do to let the safety men go in, to open the pit up.
And this is after the strikes?
This is at the end of the strike.
At the end.
Yeah. There was a friend of ours at Welbeck, he lived at Warsaw, and he was on the union. But this time they got on to UDM, different union, but still NCB. And a lad got a broken back on the ground, and they had the doctors and nurses down to treat him, brought him out of the pit, and there was a couple of hundred pickets at the bottom of the pit lane, and they said the ambulance isn't coming through.
Yeah, but tell them what they did to a nurse's car.
When the nurse who were in charge of the medical centre, when she went, they wrecked the car. They kicked it, hit it with stuff, and they just wrecked it. Every Panland car just wrecked it. So Sandy went down, and they got a bull on. They went down. He says, I'm driving the ambulance. That lad's going to hospital. If anybody steps in front of me, they're dead. I am not stopping. And he went down at 60 miles an hour and said, he just opened the opposite way. And he went straight through and took that to hospital. He flitted during the strike, didn't he?
Yeah.
And the lad who took his house, they wrecked his car on drive. They thought they were still there.
And these were travelling pickets, were they?
Yeah.
That travelled down?
Yeah.
Yorkshire.
Wrecked his car, painted it and all sorts. And they had nothing to do with it. I don't think he worked at pit. Did he?
No, we didn't, no.
No. I think Coldwell put it right for him. Yeah.
Really demonstrates the tensions at the time.
I mean, when Janice was saying that they had to withdraw us all, we were capping a wine, you know. It was due for capping, that's making a new end up. It had to be done every 6 months. And it had to be done. There's no messing about. It either got done or pit show. So they brought it on nights, on Thursday night, and we started about 6 in the afternoon. And we were halfway through, and police come and they said there's been a picket killed at Ollerton. We can't guarantee you safety, we're clearing all the pits out, send everybody home. So we've come to go home. And in Clipstone Pit Yard, there's 2 ways of getting into the baths, which is across the other side of the road. You can either walk across the road, or you can go under the tunnel. So what did my lot do? Instead of going in the tunnel and keeping out way for everybody, they went across the road. And Thursday night, you had a pay slip with the details of your wages for Friday morning. And it's about that long, narrow strip. So what they did, they got into the road and they held all the pay slips. So when did you see one of these lads? Because the ones that went bloody lynched. But that's how they were all men, they were. But I can remember my dad carrying me from Newton, where my mother's parents lived, back here, because all the buses stopped when they were bombing Sheffield. And we could hear the bangs and explosions, and you could see a red light in the sky all lit up. And it was a big bombing raid on Sheffield. I can remember my dad carrying me home on his shoulders.
I can remember that because I lived at Monster Woodhouse and my dad worked at Sherwood Pit. And because they were bombing Sheffield, they sent them all home out the pit. They took them all out the pit because my dad was on nights, and they sent them home. And my dad came into the back door in all his pit gear, in his pit muck, as they call it, and I didn't recognise him because my mum had fetched me and my sister downstairs, and we'd got evacuees. We had evacuees from London in our attic. My Auntie Kate and two girls, because they'd been bombed out. Her husband stayed in London working.
I was round the top in the class all my life. I was sort of second or third in the class on annual exams or whatever. And I got an apprenticeship at the pit, and I went to school, went to tech, and I was the dumbest person in that building because we'd done nothing. I didn't know what logarithms were, I didn't know what fractions were, I didn't know anything. And it was a bad education at the school. And they named the school after him, Sam Barlow. I can remember Sam Barlow, little portly fella. And they named the school after him because he'd been at its inauguration and he'd done it all up until he retired. So, we were well known, but by God, it was a poor school. I think I was saying yesterday, kids now go to university as a matter of course, really. I went when I was about 12 to being about 15. Well, for a couple of years anyway. I went to a bloke called Sam Brown, the Chinese at the bottom of Fifth Avenue, that one. That was a green grocer's shop. And at the back he had an Insnote, and he got his horse in there and his wagon, steel rim wheel, and he was going out every morning delivering fruit around the village. And he had a bucket on back full of water. He used to have to go around every so often and wet all these wheels because wood used to shrink and let the tire come off. And they used to go, and you knew where everybody lived. Because we used to go at horse, say Monday morning, I'd be there about 6:45, brush the horse down, get a kit in at Linden Road. Then Sam used to put her in shafts because she didn't like backing up. She was a nuisance for that, she wouldn't back up. So probably something happened to her when she was young, I don't know. And he used to put her in shafts and off we went. And we'd say we'd start on 7th Avenue. We'd go a few yards up, stop. Sam would go one side, I'd go other. They used to put the baskets in passage outside, get the basket with the list, come back to the cart, make them all up, then go and take them back. And Sam would say, "Go on, Dolly," and she went to the next stop. And we picked another 2 or 3 baskets up and did that right around the village. And she knew every round we did, every day, she knew where she were. And she never put the wheels on the causeway. When she stopped, the wheels were that far off the causeway, never, because she got a good pull to get them back off. If she got a wheel on causeway, she'd a job, she'd a lot of pulling and tugging to do.
Is a causeway a pavement? Or is that a pavement?
Yeah, pavement, yeah. So she never touched the pavement with the wheels. She always knew exactly how far she were from pavement, and she knew where the next stop were. And she was always there, never missed one, dead same place every time. And sometimes one of the ladies would come out with a carrot or something for her, and she knew that stop as well. And she wouldn't move till she'd had the carrot. Yeah. But there were characters, even horses were characters. I mean, imagine that, they're supposed to be dumb animals, but your Clipstone village, I think it's 600 houses on the original pit village, and we had a different route every morning, 6 days a week, and she knew every route. And Sam would just tell her to go on, and she went to the next route. And of course at them days there were no cars parked all over the place, nobody got cars. So if you got a clear run on streets, it's just Stockland, dead same place every time. Yeah.
Was this before school?
Yeah. At 8:45, wherever I was, I used to run to school. Yeah. Yeah.
And can you describe Dolly the horse? What did she look like?
She was a bay horse, heavy horse obviously. And she was good as gold. Yeah. I only had one bit of trouble with her. I brushed her one morning and she leaned on me in the stall, the narrow stall. And she leaned on me and I panicked, I couldn't breathe. And I'm hitting her around the neck with currycomb and she stood up and I got out. And I told Sam come round a bit later, 5 minutes later, I said, just crushed me on the wall. He said, what were you doing? I said, I'm brushing her. He said, you weren't brushing hard enough. So she weren't leaning on you, she was leaning on brush. I wanted to do it a bit harder. Yeah.
So did you always brush her harder after that?
Yeah. You better believe it. Yeah. You live and learn, don't you? Even you won't think it. I'm saying, if a horse treads on your foot, right, no good pushing it, because if you push it off, it's got to put more weight on that foot to go sideways. So all you've got to do is go on the back of the leg and then pick the foot up. So you don't start pushing and shoving, you go around the back of the leg to pick the foot up. He came one day, he suffered with asthma. And he said, do you think you'd take Dolly to Blacksmith for me? I said, where's Blacksmith? He said, Woodhouse. I said, I don't know where it is. He said, she does. I said, well, do you think it'll be alright? He said, yeah. He says, take a Saturday morning. I said, right. So I went down Saturday morning. He got reins off at cart, so I got about 1,000,000 yards of reins, looped over her neck. He put a sack bag over her back, lifted him up onto the back, go on Dolly, and off we went. We went up Main Road, up to the top of Newlands, and that Newman Lane was a dirt track then, just a rough cobble, well, just rough road, rough track. Went down there into Woodhouse, up into Blacksmith Yard. He says, is that Dolly Brown? I said, yes. Come on, I'm ready for her. And he shot her, took me back up on the back and I rode her back. I mean, can you imagine that happening today? 13-year-old lad. Impossible, isn't it? I thought I was Roy Rogers or somebody. I did. Yeah. In fact, I think that about the first time I'd ever been on a horse. Yeah.
Did you ride any more after that?
Well, we finished up with the own horses for 30 years. Yeah, because I'm a blacksmith, I took up shoeing part-time. We went to night school, didn't we? And then had to ride.
Yeah.
And then we finished up with horses.
The